If you didn't, we had food at our house. We've still got some stored up if you need it. We can have it shipped to you this week if you need it. I'm hoping it has ceased for a while anyway. We want to be praying for some special needs. Many of you know Heather Sellers is in the hospital in ICU at Redmond and had to have 2 inches of her clavicle bone removed and is having some issues there. So be praying. They said it'd be a week. And Cheryl, you have an update on her?
Well, I talked to her this morning by text,
Right.
and she said she did not have a good night, that she hurt most of the night, that it was hurting in her back. So,
Yeah, she's been laying flat on her back for several days, and I know that's aggravated it too. So.
but you know, I really think they're talking about keeping her there for 3 to 4 weeks.
So let's continue to pray. She's still in ICU there, ICU West, so keep her in your prayers. Stephanie had a little issue yesterday. She feeling better, John?
She's a little pain, but she's good.
Good,
Yeah,
good.
she's all right.
She's back home. And Jean Bell is back home now and recovering. She wanted to thank you for your prayers and let you know that she's hoping to get better. She said she didn't want to try to go out today, and just got word that James is not doing real well today either, so we want to be praying for him. And I do want to read this card to you. It comes from the family of Dot Bell. It says, to the church family, thank you for keeping us close in prayer and for the generous contributions for being there as we celebrated the life of our precious granny and the meal you prepared for our friends and family. We thank you, we appreciate you, and we love you. So we want to continue to pray for Dot's family, for Keisha and Ken, Cret and the family. Continue to lift them up. Are there others we need to pray for this morning?
Keith started out not doing too good.
Okay. Let's remember Sarah now in our prayers. Is it from the surgery or just
Well, I don't know, she's not eating and
not responding?
she said she's still hurting, so I don't know.
Bless her heart. Okay, we want to lift her up too. Are there others we need to pray for today? Who's that? Nora Brewer. We want to pray for Miss Nora.
Had a blood clot, and now it's an infection.
Yes, sir.
My mom.
Let's pray for Miss Peggy. Can you lift her up?
My brother started chemo treatments this week.
His first name is
Warren.
Warren. We want to pray for Warren today. Are there others we need to lift up? All right.
Keep praying for Zach and him.
Let's pray for Zach. Let's keep him in your prayer list. Absolutely. We want to lift him up. Are there any others? Well, let's bow as we pray. Brother Wesley, would you lead us in our prayer, especially remembering these needs today?
Father, it's so good to be able to come into your house and play and worship you. And thank you for all those that came out today and worked with us. Pray, Lord, that you'll be with Keith. She brings a message that you give him, Lord. Maybe a message that will help each one of us in our daily lives, Lord, that we might get closer to you. And Father, we ask you to do the ones that you did. Lord, you know each and every one of them, and you know what they need, Lord. We just pray that you might furnish those needs to them, Lord, that they might get better and look back to us, Lord. And Father, we thank you for what you do for us. And we pray that you continue to lead this church for his son, in Jesus' name.
All right, you may have noticed, hopefully you noticed that this week was Valentine's Day. All of you husbands and wives took care of those special gifts. We are getting ready in about 3 years, is that right? It's a little less than 3 years actually now, for our 175th anniversary. And out of the archives, they found an old Valentine's. Remember when way back in, I told somebody I never thought I'd say, way back in the 90s? we had our Valentine banquet. We used to have the king and queen. Actually, there's a picture of me on there and several folks who, some of them had already gone to the Valentine banquet in the sky. But several pictures there. I hope you get a chance to go by and see that. We're starting planning for that. You say, well, that's 2000, what will that be, 23? 2023. But we want to get and start planning for that anniversary. And Sandra, do you want to say a word about that or share a thought?
Well, we're going to ask that if you have any old pictures, any memories, any stories you'd like to share with us. I know people probably don't want to turn loose of their pictures, but we'll be glad to make copies of them. And anything, especially from the last 25 years since we did this one, but even things that you might not have gotten into this one that you'd like to share with us, all the way back to 1848.
Good deal. Yeah, for those of you who were here in 1848 especially. And we'll take stories, we will take stories from everybody except Jack Nally. Right, Jewel?
Right.
She's 100% fine. All right, so we're looking forward to that. That's going to be a great opportunity. In the near future, we want to be sure you notice the events that are coming up. We will have our call conference today right after morning service, just for the purpose of the flooring to be replaced in the back hallway there, so it won't take 5 minutes when we're finished here. Our Joy Bunch will be meeting again Wednesday the 26th at 10:30. We'll have our lunch there following the Adams Barbecue. We had a great meeting last month, and we're looking forward to meeting again this time. So hope you'll be a part of that. And our Vacation Bible School Clinic will be coming up in March. So be sure you're aware of those events and things that are taking place in the days ahead. We will be voting after our regular church service today. This, again, is the flooring that we're going to be putting up, or we're proposing to put up. So I'll leave this down here on the front bench. If you want to come by during our time of reading, look at that and check it out and make sure. We will have our vote today. It'll be just a motion presented. Won't have any discussion. We may have a question time if you have questions, but we'll be presenting the motion in our call conference, and this will be the flooring. So if you want to come look at it during our reading time, please feel free to do that. Any other announcements? All right, if you notice in the very back left-hand corner, I don't want to ever point anybody out, Kristen's mother-in-law and father-in-law are here, and also known as John's dad. So we're proud to have Dave and Robin Seabolt with us today. You should be sure and welcome any other visitors we may have with us as we stand together and let's share one another today.
How you doing? Good? Pat Evans, would you mind bringing our offertory prayer, please?
Our dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today thanking you for all of your many blessings that you pour out on us each day. Sometimes we take them so for granted, but we know you are the great giver and the great lover of all of us and take care of us. We pray for those, dear Father, who have been mentioned here today, that you give healing and we very near unto them and supply their needs as only you can. We pray now that as we come to bring our tithes and offerings, that you will bless the gift and the giver, and guide us always to serve you and do according to your will. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Encourage you to take your Bibles, if you have them, turn with me to the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 11. Of course, the gentlemen have the scriptures up on the board too. Did you get your Fokker shoes on today, girl? You sound like one of the Clydesdales down there, John. Our children are headed out for their time today, and we appreciate Trail spending her time with them. When Paul writes here in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 1 through 3, he is writing to a church that is really struggling at this time. St. Paul has come and helped establish this church and helped this church to grow. It is a church that is in a land of plenty. The people in Corinth at this time were a very prosperous time, were a very prosperous generation, and they were seeing being where they were located, a great trade, the economy was good, everything was going very well. And Paul knew it was a time to be celebrating. He had come there and spent time with them, and they had blessed him with an offering. And Paul writes this letter to 2 Corinthians to, I think the best way to put it is to re-endear himself to the church at Corinth. Because there's been speculation about Paul's motivation, and his very character and nature has been attacked. And there are some who just don't even want to see Paul come back. Now, I don't know if you've ever been a part of a Baptist church or Methodist church or Presbyterian church or any other Catholic church, any other group that has had issues with pastoral leadership. But I have been in churches where that's been an issue, and it's never a comfortable thing. That was what was going on in the church at Corinth, and that gives us a little context and background to what we're about to read here when Paul writes to the church there, especially to defend his character and his honor and his motivation. So that's what he writes about here in chapter 11, verses 1 through 3. So I'd invite you to read with me today. It says, "Would to God you could bear with me a little in my folly, and indeed bear with me, for I am jealous over you with godly jealousy. For I have espoused you to one husband, that I may present you as a chaste virgin to Christ. But I fear lest by any means, as the serpent beguiled Eve through his subtlety, so your mind should be corrupted from the simplicity that is in Christ. And we've been talking these last really 6 weeks about becoming a great commandment church, which empowers us to be a great commission church. And we talked about the fact that the first crisis ever mentioned in the Bible is way back in the book of Genesis, when God, after the 6 days, every time he created something, he would say, it is good, until he got to that crisis point, and for the first time in the biblical text, God says, it is not good for man to be alone. And man's aloneness has brought us to the place today where we struggle with our fellowship, and that's what we're called to do, is to bring people who are alone in their sinfulness, or who are lost in their sinfulness, to a companionship with Christ. When Paul writes this to the church, he's not just defending his integrity, he's defending the gospel that he's been preaching. That it is Jesus Christ who has come and suffered and sacrificed, laid down his life, and now gone to be with the Father in heaven. And so when he approaches them, he shares a very special note there when he says, I'm jealous over you with a godly jealousy. Now, jealousy is a word that takes a bad connotation, right? It has a pejorative meaning. When we say the word jealousy, we almost think of something being wrong. But it is good and proper for God to be jealous, because we are His. We're His chosen people. And it's interesting that as Paul writes this, he mentions the fact, he says, I have espoused you. In other words, I have engaged you or married you to one husband. And you see throughout the New Testament, this image of the relationship between Christ and his church as being that of he being the husband or the groom and we being the bride, Christ's bride. Pastor Bob Borman imagines in his own mind a husband shopping store. Ladies, would have been nice when you were picking your husband out, you could have gone to a husband shopping store. Maybe some of you did, I don't know. But he imagines this store and says the store is laid out in 5 floors, with the men increasing in positive attributes as you go to each floor. The only way to get to each floor is by way of an elevator. When the doors open, there's a sign describing the kind of husbands on that floor. There's only one rule. Once the door opens, a woman has to make the choice of whether or not to step off and shop for the men on that floor. If they decide to go to the next floor, they can't go back to that floor except to leave the store. So there was a couple of girlfriends that decided to go shopping at the husband shopping store. So they got on the elevator, went to the first floor, the doors opened to this sign. These men have jobs and love kids. The women read the sign and said, well, that's better than not having jobs and not loving kids, but I wonder what's further up. So they decided to leave that floor behind and hit the button for floor 2. Second floor sign read, these men have high-paying jobs, love kids, and are extremely good-looking. Said the ladies. But I wonder what's further up. So they pushed the button again and went to the 3rd floor, where the sign read, these men have high-paying jobs, are extremely good-looking, love kids, and help with housework. Wow, said the women, very tempting. But I wonder what's on the 4th floor. So again, they went up to the next floor. The sign on the 4th said, these men have high-paying jobs, love kids, are extremely good-looking, help with the housework, and have a strong romantic streak. Oh Lord, what a blessing, they said. But just think, if it gets better every floor, what must be waiting on the 5th floor? So up they went to the 5th floor. And as the 5th floor elevator doors opened, the sign said, there's no such thing as a perfect husband. This floor proves that women are impossible to please. Thank you for shopping and have a nice day. And you ladies who have married us husbands know there is no such thing as a perfect human husband. The Lord just hadn't created any. I can vouch for that. My wife can vouch for that. You wives can vouch for that. But the Bible tells us there is a perfect husband. And his name is Jesus, the Christ, the anointed one. In Isaiah 65:5, Isaiah the prophet says, for your maker is your husband, the Lord of hosts is his name, and the Holy One of Israel is your Redeemer. The God of the whole earth he is called. As believers, we're called to be the bride of Christ. We're espoused to Christ. He is our husband. Now, as a bride, what does the bride look for in a husband? A bride looks for a husband, a provider and a protector and a caring one who is going to be there for them to meet the needs of being the head of the household and the leader of the household. Now, I've shared with many people before. They asked me, Amy and I have been married for 28 years. I finally got it right there, 28 years. And going on 29 now. People ask me sometimes, have we stayed together so long? And I tell them there's one secret, and I think I've shared it with you before. But when we first got married, I told Amy, I said, Amy, I want you to understand one thing: the marriage relationship, I believe the husband is the head of the house. So when it comes to major decisions, I'll have the final authority. To which she replied and said, well, I think I can live with that. And I said, now all the minor decisions, just regular decisions, you can make those, but major decisions will come down to me and my decision. She said, yes. And in 28 years, we have yet to have a major decision to be made. Which is remarkable, but it's worked well for us. Well, when we talk about the husband and wife relationship, we're talking about a mutual covenant of love and honor and respect. Those are the words that we use in that marriage covenant. When we think about the relationship of Christ to his church, that's the exact same covenant that he's established. It's where he becomes our provider. He becomes our protector, our sustainer. He's the one who helps us get through every day. Can't tell you how many times I've sat down with families when a loved one, like Miss Dot, who passed away the other day, or Miss Nancy, who passed away recently. You sit down with a family, and I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say to me, I don't know how we would have made it through this time without the Lord. And my response is, I don't know how anybody makes it through this time of separation without knowing Christ, without having him real and living their life. It is that relationship that helps get through the troubles of life. And isn't it great when we're in a wonderful marriage relationship and we go through those struggles, not on our own, but with a loved one? Many of you who've lost spouses know how difficult it is to move on with life and go on. And as my mom tells me many times, my dad's been gone now over 19 years, and she shares with me sometimes, I just wish your daddy were here so I could talk with him and discuss this, what's going on. And that's what intimacy is. And when we talk about intimacy with God, that's what we're talking about. Having a relationship with God so that we can tell him anything and know that he understands it. You see, he already knows everything about us. Now, you folks know a lot about me. Yeah, you know through my preaching, you know through our everyday lives together. You know several things about me. Some of you know more than others. Some of you know more than you want to know, probably. But as we go through time, we continue to grow. One of the things that we're doing in our Joy Bunch that I love is we're telling my stories. And I shared with them last week, gave them example. I told them my story, just my testimony. Everyone here has your story and where you've come from. And Hardy's going to be sharing his story with us, telling us how he got where he is today. Every one of us has a story, and every story is different and unique. Maybe some similarities, but every story is unique. And we're sharing our stories, our testimonies. And that's what a testimony is. It's simply sharing your story with others. I love sharing my story. Most people do. Like, one of the things I learned when I was teaching high school is that high school kids love to talk about themselves, just like people in general do. And one of the things I try to do in my high school classes, I try to do a whole lot less lecturing and get the kids started and let them share, because they really enjoy talking to me more than they enjoyed listening to me for an hour. One of the things I always try to do is stimulate the conversation to get them sharing their thoughts and their ideas, because we all like to talk about ourselves, don't we? And our grandchildren and our children. I've never met a grandparent yet that ran out of good things to say about their kids and grandkids. Have you? So when we get to that point of loving and caring and have that intimacy with each other, we grow to know one another. And as I shared with you last week, we can't really love people until we know them, can we? And that's why it's so vitally important as we start to reach this community for Christ through our school and everything else. I love the attitude of those who work. We were out here putting up the backpack buddies to take. How many backpack buddies do we take to families now, Gladys? 25. 25 families that we carry backpack buddies to. That means every week they take a backpack home. And I don't know that those people know even where this church is that receive those backpacks. Maybe they do. They could probably drive by it every day taking their kids to school. But they know somewhere there's a church that cares about them. They may not know a whole lot about us. They know one thing, they know that we care. Enough to prepare those lunches for those kids, for the weekends. See, as we get to know one another, it helps us love one another. The problem comes sometimes that as we grow to love, to know one another, we see each other as we really are. And that can be a tough thing, can't it? You know, when you're dating, you see each other for a limited time and you get to go home and leave each other. When you get married, you're there 24/7. And you start getting, and things can get a little complicated, can't they? But if you can get through those times and move through those times, isn't it precious to see a relationship that goes on for 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years? You see two people grow in love, and if you ask them, is the love relationship like it used to be? They'll say, no, it's not like it used to be, it's better. It's better. Why? Because it has grown and developed into something great. And I've watched my children grow. I loved my kids when they were born. I loved my kids when they were children. I even loved my kids when they were teenagers, as hard as that was. But it was a process, and I love my children now as adults. People say to me sometimes, don't you wish you could have your little kids back? No, I don't want them back. Not at that stage. I'm glad they're where they are. They're where they need to be. See, we raised our kids to grow up and be mature adults. Now, Dave and Robin, you might have a discussion with me afterwards on whether Kristen's arrived yet. But I tell you, we want them to be adults. We want them to be responsible. We want them to be paying their own bills and managing their own lives. And we're grateful that God has blessed us with them. That's what intimacy is. Intimacy is growing where you can share your lives together. And that's all intimacy is. It's getting to know one another to such a point that you can figure people. Amy doesn't have to talk to me and tell me words anymore about a lot of things. I know just by a sigh what she's thinking. I know by her posture what's going on. I know by her eyebrows what she's thinking. She doesn't have to say those words to me. She communicates it because we have grown to know one another. She'd tell you probably she knows me better than she wishes she did at times. And so it is with the Lord. Can you think about that? The Lord as our husband, as the one who loves us, who protects us, who cares for us, wants to be intimate with us. He wants us to talk to Him and share with Him. I see so many people who feel distant from God. Guess what? If we're distant from the Lord, guess whose fault that is? It's not because He's walking away. He's as close as our next breath, if we're going to share with Him. He wants to hear our stories. We keep, and I share with this all the time because he's our new little buddy, but we keep little Memphis, Amy's great nephew, and he's such a bundle of joy and love. And when he comes over, we miss him when he's not with us. He's only with us 3 days, and so we have a 4-day drought, and then he comes back. It takes us that long to recover before he comes back. He's 2 years old. But just watching him grow in the relationship we have, we still have to, and his mom, Amy called the other day and was talking to his mom, and she said, well, how's he doing? And she said, well, he talked back to me and he tried to hit me on the arm, and she said, well, you just spank him good if he does that. And of course, Amy's not going to spank him. But she said, well, he's just having a hard day, and she started to make excuses for him. I don't want to say, Amy, now you didn't do that with our kids. But can you imagine intimacy is that point of saying, I'm going to overlook the faults and the warts and those problems, and I'm going to love this person. Not in light of who they are, but in spite of who they are. Listen to what the Bible says, because it's important when we think about why did God choose Israel? Why would God choose us to be His bride as the church? The perfect wife? No way. Here's what Isaiah says in Isaiah 54:6. He says, for the Lord has called you like a wife deserted and wounded in spirit, a wife of one's own youth when she is rejected, says your God. In other words, when He looked at Israel, He saw a despised, if you will, ugly, deplorable woman and said, I want you for my bride. It's the same picture Hosea does when he married the prostitute. It's not a woman of choice. Most of us would never say to our children, I hope you find a nice, ugly woman to spend the rest of your life with, especially one who is nagging and complaining and grieving all the time. I hope you can find a partner like that. None of us want that for our child. None of us want our daughters to find a husband who is domineering and offensive and belittling and vulgar. We want our children to find spouses that are pleasing and pleasant, handsome and beautiful. But that's not why God chooses us. He doesn't choose us because we're perfect. He doesn't choose us because we're lovable, maybe not even because we're likable. He chooses us because it is His nature to love those who need Him the most. He's attracted to us for one reason, because nobody else really desires us, especially Israel. In Ezekiel's day, they would take an unwanted child, and unfortunately, the way they lived then, if you had an unwanted child, if you didn't like its appearance, you could take it out and just basically let it die. And umbilical cord still intact. Just put it out in the cold, desert it, and let it die. And sometimes that would happen. That's exactly the picture Isaiah gives when he says, like a wife deserted and wounded in spirit, a wife of one's youth when she's rejected. It's that person who is not attractive enough, that person who is not seemly enough. So what is it God expects from us and looks for in us to be His bride? You know, I talk to a lot of young couples, and over the years I've counseled many young couples who come to me and their marriage is troubled after 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. They'll sit down with me and just say, you know, I don't know if I love him anymore. I don't know if I love her anymore. And usually what they mean is, you know, this is not what I signed up for. I thought it was going to be this way, and my expectations have not been met, and now I'm ready to move on to something, quote, better. And as I share with those and talk with them, I think about, you know, are you living your life to please yourself? Are you living your life to try to please that one that you've covenanted with? And it should be a covenant that's based on, well, I made a promise and I'm going to stick to it. I don't care how awful he is or how awful she is. Aren't you glad the Lord doesn't say, well, I'll stick with you, church, as long as you obey me perfectly? If we did, we'd be a lost bride and a lost cause. He says to us, I have loved you with an everlasting love, one that will never fail. And He will be faithful to us even in our unfaithfulness, even when we don't walk according to His word, even when we're not in perfect obedience to Him. I know you've all heard the phrase, happy wife, happy life, haven't you? And there is some truth to that. But I think the phrase we should be using is happy church, happy Christ. When we're living our lives in a way to please Him, instead of what we want and what we desire, to allow Him to have His way, and His Spirit to have His way in our church, not only will we be happy and satisfied, He will be happy and satisfied. How it must break God's heart when we do not listen to His leadership, when we choose our own way. He rejoices in pleasing us, and when we please Him, He rejoices. How many husbands you know want to live with a wife who's constantly complaining, who's demanding, who's dissatisfied, who's angry or even hostile? How about what Christ puts up with His bride? Those times we complain, those times that we talk about having to follow Him and what we have to give up and sacrifice. And what a husband we have, perfect in every way, even when we don't measure up in our devotion to Him. I tell you, when we talk about the month of love, I don't think we can end this series without talking about the fact that there is a perfect husband that we're married to as a church. And I'm so grateful that not only does He protect us and care for us and comfort us, He is one who is with us through all circumstances, and He sees us just as we are. After our honeymoon was over, Amy and I came home, and for these past 28 years, we've been getting to know each other. Sometimes we're proud. Sometimes we have to sit back and think, what did I get myself into? We've made it 28 years, hoping to make at least 28 more. But I wonder what it would be like if at some point Amy just decided she didn't love me anymore. Or if I were to come in and say, you know what, I don't want to live with you anymore. It would be heartbreaking. It would be heartrending. I want to be a husband to her though I cannot be perfect, that she knows at the end of the day, my love is steadfast for her, and when she needs me, I will be there. And I think she has that same vision and dream for me, that in my hour and time of need, she can be there for me. That's what Valentine's Day was for us all about. Now I'm gonna fess up on Amy's part. I got her some beautiful red roses, a dozen roses. I got her a box of candy and a beautiful little card, handed them all to her. As we were going out to eat on Valentine's night, she said to me, I've been so busy with stuff, I didn't get you anything. So next time y'all see Amy, y'all give her a hard time. No. And I said to her, you know what? I don't need things. I need you. When we think about what we can do for the Lord or what we can become for the Lord, He says to us, I don't need your things. I want you to do things that are pleasing and good, but it's not your things I'm after. It's you. You I want. And as little Memphis comes to see me every day and runs up and grabs me by the legs, because that's as high as he can get, and squeezes me, and he says, Uncle Keith, hi. And it makes my day. Even so, our husband every day, when we get out of bed, and we go through the day, loves it when we embrace him. Say, hi, Lord. Good morning, Lord. Let's see what today has to offer us. Let's see how you and I can take it on and tackle it. I hope you have that relationship with him today. If not, I pray you would come and know him in that relationship. Would you join me as we pray? Father God, we thank you today for your love for us. As much as we husbands strive and we wives strive to be pleasing for our spouse, even more so, you are a loving husband to us, who everlastingly and eternally will love us. God, would you bathe us in that love today, and we might know it in a special way as we leave this place in just a while. Be able to share that love with others, as you've commissioned us to do, that we love not only the Lord God with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength, but we love our neighbor and our family, especially as ourselves. Help us today to commit to that, whether in the pew or publicly, however you lead us today. I just pray that you would give us your grace to be obedient to you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. We're going to have a time of invitation and dedication. And as we stand to sing this song, I only trust him. If you have a public need, you're welcome to come pray with me. You can pray right there in the pew. Whatever God leads you to do, you just be obedient to him as we stand and sing. As you know, in our last conference, we tabled a motion concerning our flooring in the back, and in consideration of that table motion from January 12th regular conference, and with a quorum being present today, we'll be voting on this updated motion from the deacon body and the Building Grounds Committee. This is the motion. The church replace the carpet in the fellowship hall area from the hallway at the entrance of the sanctuary right here, through the fellowship hall and into the nursery areas with the luxury vinyl plank that you see here. The cost for the renovation is approximately $10,449.97 for materials, tax, and installation. That's the total cost.
What was that again?
I'm gonna give you the sheet in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, $10,449.97. The bill will be paid in full from the money market fund, which may be underwritten over time by private donations. And we've already received $2,600 in private donations even before we took the vote. So we're well on our way to paying that money back into the money market, but there's plenty of money in there to do that. There's one little caveat I want to just go ahead and share with you. This is based on if the flooring, the subflooring there and everything is intact and is in shape to take the plank. If for any reason we have to go back and redo that flooring or make additions there or corrections to the flooring that's currently there, we will come back to the church before moving on. This is just to approve if the flooring is adequate and ready to be prepped for this flooring. If it is, that's the total cost. And again, if it increases over that cost, we will come back to the church to do that. We don't have discussion today, but I know there might be questions. Anyone have a question before we vote? All right, this time we'll call for the vote on the question, and that all those in favor of moving ahead with this project say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. And there is no opposition, so it passes unanimously. All right, we're going to close out our special call conference, and I appreciate you all being here. And just let's stand to our feet now, and we'll move ahead with that project and keep you updated as we move along. Thank you all for being here. Be sure to welcome our visitors and guests today, and have a wonderful day this afternoon. We hope to see you again next Sunday in the Lord's house. Firecracks will be at 5 o'clock tonight, so if you can be there for that. If there's nothing else, let's bow for our benediction. Brother Franklin Turner, would you lead us in that prayer, please, sir?
Our dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for just another beautiful day. And we just thank you, Lord, for all the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us. And just thank you, Lord, for all your love and your watching over us and caring for us. And Lord, we just pray for all the ones that's mentioned today that's, you know, in some way or another. You know all their problems and needs, and Lord, I just leave it in your hands to heal them and care for them and everybody, just so that they will know that you care for them. And Lord God, we just pray that you will go with us as we go our separate ways and be with us and be guide us in all the things that we do and say. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Hope you have had a good week. Don't know if you got any rain at your house. If you didn't, we had plenty at our house. We've still got some stored up if you need it. We can have it shipped to you this week if you need it. I'm hoping it has ceased for a while anyway. We want to be praying for some special needs. Many of you know Heather Sellers is in the hospital in ICU at Redmond and had to have 2 inches of her clavicle bone removed. And is having some issues there, so be praying. They said it'd be a week. And Cheryl, do you have an update on her?
Well, I talked to her this morning by text,
Right.
and she said she did not have a good night, that she hurt most of the night, that it was hurting in her back. So,
Yeah, she's been laying flat on her back for several days, and I know that's aggravated it too. So.
but you know, I really think they're talking about keeping her there for 3 to 4 weeks.
So let's continue to pray. She's still in ICU there, ICU West, so keep her in your prayers. Stephanie had a little issue yesterday. She feeling better, John?
She's a little pain, but she's good.
Good,
Yeah,
good.
she's all right.
She's back home. And Jean Bell is back home now and recovering. She wanted to thank you for your prayers and let you know that she's hoping to get better. She said she didn't want to try to get out today, and just got word that James is not doing real well today either, so we want to be praying for him. And I do want to read this card to you. It comes from the family of Dot Bell. It says, to the church family, thank you for keeping us close in prayer, for the generous contributions, for being there as we celebrated the life of our precious granny and the meal you prepared for our friends and family. We thank you, we appreciate you, and we love you. So we want to continue to pray for Dot's family, for Keisha and Ken, Cret and the family, and continue to lift them up. Are there others we need to pray for this morning?
Keith started out not doing too good.
Okay, let's remember Sarah now in our prayers. Is it from the surgery or just
Well, I don't know, she's not eating
not responding?
and she said she's still hurting, so I don't know.
Bless her heart. Okay, we want to lift her up too. Are there others we need to pray for today? Who's that? Nora Group. You want to pray for Miss Nora?
Had a blood clot, and now it's an infection.
Yes, sir. Let's pray for Miss Peggy. Can you lift her up?
My brother started chemo treatment this
His first name is
week.
Warren. We want to pray for Warren today. Are there others we need to lift up? All right.
Keep praying for Zach and him.
Let's pray for Zach. Let's keep him in your prayer list. Absolutely. We want to lift him up. Are there any others? Well, let's bow as we pray. Brother Wesley, would you lead us in our prayer, especially remembering these needs today?
Father, it's so good to be able to come into your house and pray and worship you. And thank you for all things that came out today, Lord. We just pray, Lord, that you be with Keith. She brings a message that you give him, Lord. Maybe a message that will help me, each one of us in our daily lives, Lord, that we might get closer to you. And Father, we ask you to be the ones who do that to be. But Lord, you know each and every one of them, and you know what they need, Lord. We just pray that you might furnish those needs to them, Lord, that they might get better and get back to us, Lord. And Father, we thank you for what you do for us. And we pray that you continue to lead this church for his son, in Jesus' name.
All right, you may have noticed, hopefully you've noticed that this week was Valentine's Day. All of you husbands and wives took care of those special gifts. We are getting ready in about 3 years, is that right? It's a little less than 3 years actually now, for our 175th anniversary. And out of the archives, they found an old Valentine's. Remember when way back in, I told somebody I never thought I'd say, way back in the 90s? We had our Valentine banquet. We used to have the king and queen. Actually, there's a picture of me on there and several folks who, some of them had already gone to the Valentine banquet in the sky. But several pictures there. I hope you get a chance to go by and see that. We're starting planning for that. You say, well, that's 2000, what will that be, 23? 2023. But we want to go ahead and start planning for that anniversary. And Sam, did you want to say a word about that or share a thought?
Well, we're going to ask that if you have any old pictures, any memories, any stories you'd like to share with us. I know people probably don't want to turn loose of their pictures, but we'll be glad to make copies of them. And anything, especially from the last 25 years since we did this one, but even things that you might not have gotten into this one that you'd like to share with us, all the way back to 1848.
Good deal. Yeah, for those of you who were here in 1848 especially. And we'll take stories. We will take stories from everybody except Jack Nally. Right, Jewel?
Right.
She's 100% behind that. All right, so we're looking forward to that. That's going to be a great opportunity. In the near future, we want to be sure you notice the events that are coming up. We will have our call conference today right after morning service, just for the purpose of the flooring to be replaced in the back hallway there, so it won't take 5 minutes when we're finished here. Our Joy Bunch will be meeting again Wednesday the 26th at 10:30. We'll have our lunch there following the Allen's Barbecue. We had a great meeting last month, and we're looking forward to meeting again this time. So I hope you'll be a part of that. And our Vacation Bible School Clinic will be coming up in March. So be sure you're aware of those events and things that are taking place in the days ahead. We will be voting after our regular church service today. This, again, is the flooring that we're going to be putting up, or we're proposing to put up. So I'll leave this down here on the front bench. If you want to come by during our time of reading, look at that and check it out and make sure. We will have our vote today. It'll be just a motion presented. Won't have any discussions. We may have a question time if you have questions, but we'll be presenting the motion in our call conference, and this will be the forum. So if you want to come look at it during our reading time, please feel free to do that. Any other announcements? All right, if you notice in the very back left-hand corner, I don't want to ever point anybody out. Kristen's mother-in-law and father-in-law are here, and also known as John's dad. So we're proud to have Dave and Robin Seabolt with us today. You should be sure and welcome any other visitors we may have with us as we stand together and let's share one another today.